So for the past few weeks, I've had a secret teammate in my corner for my RC race program. And no, it's not OG Bo, which, you know, if you know, you know. We've had Bob in our corner, my little AI friend. And before AI may or may not take over the world, I figured I would ask Bob if he could help me with my race program if he's not too busy. And the results, honestly, have been spectacular. So let Bob and I talk to you about it right now. I'm Chad. This is the Dorky and 40 RC channel, and Bob's going to make you faster today. So you know me, I'm a no bullshit kind of guy, and I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do to get Chat GPT to work for you in the way that it's been working for me. So first of all, obviously you download the app. Now you get so many like questions and images per day for free. So you could upload an image or two of your dog. And you know, after you've made enough images of your dog flying through New York City at nighttime with a cape on, smoking a blunt. Wasn't my idea. Then you can really get into the meat and potatoes. But the problem is you're going to find out real quick that like this thing is so damn handy that you're going to ask it questions and then it's going to say, you've used up all your time. You can't come back until later. So you're probably going to immediately subscribe to the fee. So I subscribed to, I think the only plan that I can find on here was $20 a month. And believe me, I've got my multi-years worth of money out of this thing already. And hopefully I'll show you guys too. So definitely give it a try. Maybe there's other AI models that are out there. By the way, they just upgraded to AI 5 and it's spectacular. So take a look here. So the way this works is you download the app and then you could basically just start having conversations with it. You can do text or you can do voice, which is pretty awesome. You know, you could just do something like this. Bob, we had a really good at racing the buggies yesterday. I really want you to dig really hard into the B7 and the Schumacher Cougar 2 works though, and think about how we can find more speed.
Absolutely, Chad. Sounds like you had a great time out there, and I'm all in to help you squeeze a little more speed out of both the B7 and the Cougar 2 works. So let's dive in. For the B7, we've already got a pretty refined setup, but maybe we can look at fine-tuning the front anti-roll bar a bit more or playing with that toe setting slightly to see if we can improve corner speed without sacrificing stability.
Or you could type this all in and chat and all that kind of stuff with it. But I use both. Obviously, you just don't want to sit there and talk at the track. You can kind of do that at home. So the best thing that you want to do is you want to create what I did with each car. Initially, I was just having conversations like that. And then what I had to do was add the conversations into what is called a project. So if you wanted to basically start a new car, you would basically just type in your car, start the new project, and start having your conversations within here. And within each project, you will see all the multiple conversations that you have. So far, I have found that it's always easier to just start with the latest conversation that you began with and just keep going from there. It seems to keep itself sorted the best. If you start like I did with multiple different conversations and then try to merge those into like a single project, it got kind of confused because I had to go in and correct it on things, this and that, whatever. And now the way you get the most out of this thing is you can't like bullshit this thing, right? Like you can't say, I'm a great racer and I get screwed every time that I race and get taken out and I should be the fastest car because I spent $1,000 on this. It's not how it works. I have given Bob every freaking detail about me, my race program, everything. I've uploaded pictures of different things, like all the timings, all the events, pictures of my car when it doesn't understand something. For example, oval guys, it didn't really know the difference between how the Tsunami front end was mounted to the chassis as far as like the lower blocks versus, you know, being mounted to the chassis instead of the blocks, whatever. So I had to clarify it with things. On the B7, it gave me some, or actually the Cougar, it gave me some shock hole recommendations and it wasn't clear on that. So I just snapped a picture of my setup, uploaded it. It brought me back a freaking annotated version that says, put your shit here, 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 and here. I mean, literally. So you can't bullshit it. You got to tell it about yourself. You got to tell it about everything about your car. You got to keep on asking it to repeat like its baseline setup to you. And if there's any minute detail inside there that you want it to know and put into its calculations, you're going to have to like add that to it. Yesterday at the track, there was a second transition session that I wasn't really like prepared for. It was off of a straightaway, off camber, immediate 180, fall off the backside or go flying off the backside in some cases. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to use the ABS feature that is built into my SandWah. The only problem is, if you ever looked at the manual for a SandWah, it's like it's written in Martian. It makes no sense. There's no description. There's no videos about it or anything at all. Now I asked Bob all about it, took a picture of my SandWah settings. He explained everything to me. He gave me exact settings to put in there and then asked me for feedback, how it was going when I told him about how the settings worked in the qualifier before. I mean, you kind of see where I'm getting. Garbage in, garbage out. You need to feed the beast. Like, I have watched videos on people how they've used AI for everything in their life. And again, after you're done making flying dog pictures, you know, this is a perfect opportunity to do things with. For us, obviously, it fits our channel. We've got test data. I've done this on, we'll start with like my oval pan cars. The great thing about it for the oval pan cars or anything RC in general is, you know, I've been racing competitively for like, let's say a couple of years now. But like, I still just don't know everything. And like, I'm 40, almost 48 years old. Like, I can't like remember. I mean, I can remember I'm sharp and everything despite all the crazy shit I did in college, but you know, like your ability to like learn and remember shit and everything else just kind of like goes downhill. That's just the way it is. And if you ask this guy or that guy, everybody's got like a different kind of like way to teach you. I've had people that have been able to teach me in ways that really connect with me, and people that have told me things over and over, Bo, usually because they're yelling at me about shit and they just kind of expect people to know. And I've had recent conversations with people about like the bump steer video that I watched. You know, you get people on YouTube that like tell you exactly what bump steer is and this and that, but like, it's really hard to comprehend and remember all that and watching the video 1,000 times. Sometimes it's just better to have all of that stuff right in front of you. And then if your car starts doing something that you don't like, or you're having a problem or whatever, then you can say, hey, could my bump steer be affecting this? Or so on and so forth. You kind of see where I'm going. So not only is it going to make you a better racer, but it's going to teach you about everything about RCs. I've given you so many examples already. Let's talk about my 25.5 truck. I mean, I'm going to just go on the high horse here and say I have one of the fastest, best trucks that is around. I mean, I am always a threat to win, but I've never taken that big ring yet. I usually locally am like a first or second guy, depending upon who's there. At the Firecracker, we were able to get the third place. So I know what I'm doing and I can build that truck really good. I've been taught decently well, but there's so much more that I need to do. Decided to, after the Firecracker, saw some pictures, some setup sheets. I wanted to try like different things. Well, these things were not working. Some things were. And that's when I got back into ChatGTP and started playing around with it. And then this past week, actually went and ran the truck. So this was like the first real test of like, could I get my truck back to where it was and get it like better than it was before? And that's pretty much what we did. So Travis is like, you know, he's like the bar and he's the guy that you're always going for. So anytime that I can hang with Travis, either on the same lap, honestly, or be super close, I know that like things are going right. And that's why I'm using this as the bar. The only reason why shit hit the fan here is with like 30 seconds left in the race, I hit the ice, and with our inconsistent track grip and everything else, here comes the excuses, but it's true. You have to like tell ChatGPT stuff like this in order for it to tell you what's going on. For example, I tell it about our track. We have a 100-foot run line with about a 30-foot turn. We have very large pieces of ice that are super sticky, and tape that is on those that is even stickier. So if you hit the tape, there's a good chance that you could spin out. Hence the reason why I was playing with a ball diff inside of a foam tire car. And the ball diff actually worked great. The only problem is like when you go to a place that has great grip, then the ball diff works great, usually for the first qualifier, which I found out a couple of weeks ago at Louisville. But then as the day went on and I was playing with my rubber tire truck at the same time, I decided I just didn't do any changes to it. I lost speed because I didn't change the spool when I should have. He probably would have told me that it probably would have been a good time to put the spool in. So if we go back and just take a look at this, basically, if we look at the average times and then we start digging into the data and we look at the fact that I'm still running 3.7s, pretty much all the way towards the end of the race. I was on a 64 lap pace at lap 60, and Travis was on a 65 lap pace. Well, he was at a 65 lap pace the entire time. So, he would have got it. He actually ended up with 65. I probably obviously would have ended with 64. So he would have got me an extra lap. But if you look at just like the top 5 averages, the top 10 averages, the top 15, you look at our times and you look at his, it's the closest that I've been. And that's very encouraging. That was a different, it was a modified setup from what we were running before, just a few slight changes. But here's the thing, the truck was easier to drive, this and that, everything else. And then when I went back to the pits the next time, I would have had the conversation with Bob, tell him exactly what was going on. He would have made recommendations to maybe like gear up, or probably he would have made recommendations for the car, because I could have told him what was going on with the car, that like, hey, towards the end of the race, I noticed that I started to oversteer on corner exit. And he would have basically told me, okay, this is what you are going to want to change on the car. And he knows all and everything about the car. Like, again, I can't stress this enough. You have to spend time and tell this thing everything. So next example, Cougar 2 works. Raced it yesterday, built the thing. No idea how to run this thing on carpet, USA carpet, everything else. Totally foreign to me when it comes to like how to run a rear motor, belt driven, ball diff car on CRC carpet. Oh, that was made in 91, but it was just re-released. So, we had fun with it, and like it got around the track. It was doing very well. And obviously I had a few things that I needed to work out that you could hear, but we also worked on the B7, and my B7 is a very good car for me and very competitive. The only thing that's holding it back in my just stock class is just my slight reflexes. Depending upon the track layout, I always have an advantage because of like my on-road experience, where a lot of off-roaders that race in that class do not. But when we have more jumps and whoops and stuff like that, and less actually infield driving and all that, then I, kind of lose a little bit of my competitive edge. But there's always a couple spots in our track that we have that have always consistently gave me problems, and I explained those to him. One of those was our wall ride. There's something about my setup, the angle of the wall ride, and no matter how I come at it, just sometimes I would randomly traction roll and like fall over. I told Bob about that. We took that into the setup configuration, boom, everything, you know, done. Like it didn't traction roll on off of that wall at all day long. And if we want to take a look at the times and the qualifiers and see what it did. Now keep in mind, this is off-road, so shit does happen. So we started top qualifier, 24 laps, hot lap of a 12.0 and average laps of 12.8 and top 15 of 12.4. And if we move on to qualifier number 2, we'll see how we did here. So we went down to an 11.6 and our top 15 dropped to a 12.1. And that was all based off of some of the changes that he had me do. What were those changes? I can't remember. I would have to go back in and look. Also, you know, so we went, here's the kicker. We went faster, but we were less consistent. So we were almost 94% consistency in heat number 1. And then in heat number 2, our consistency dropped to 87, almost 88%, but we ended up going extremely faster. And then if we look at the main was kind of, I think, the worst that I drove all day. As far as the main goes, let's see, 11.4, is that faster? I can't remember. My memory already is getting to me. Yeah, so we went faster with the hot lap, and our average laps was top 15 was 12.1, and we did 23 laps. So we did one lap less. So our consistency was even worse, but we still improved based off of just a couple changes that Bob had me do. And, you know, I told him what I was willing to do and not willing to do. And we had also had discussions beforehand about the buggy itself and what was going on. I took a picture of my setup sheet, which is the 40 plus setup from Brett Thakel that I've been running, and it's great. I told him things that like I struggle with, that I'm not the best off-road driver. I struggle with these parts usually that I know that are always in our track, and then help me out. And then I also kind of like I used 1-up springs. Well, it put the wrong 1-up springs in there. So I had to correct it about the springs. I started talking to him about the actual settings and stuff in the ESC. Oh, I could tell you exactly why I started going faster. It was because I asked Bob about that ABS setting. That's right. That right there is what, it's just hitting me. That right there is what improved my time, because I did not have to like slow down as much and brake check as hard to get around through there. And then since I was coming in, I was able to exit the corner like way more on power as well. Plus I also changed positions on the driver's stand and got into the more familiar place where I was during practice. That's one thing that Bob can't do, is he can't fix driver error, and he can't like get you your favorite spot that you've been standing at practicing all day. So that's pretty much all I got to say. I mean, I don't really know what else I could say about the Chat GPT and how to use it and everything else. And, you know, we are going to keep on using it for everything. But again, if you don't know a lot about what's going on and you're just building a new car, you just start having the conversations with it. Or if you have a car, truck, whatever right now, start using this tool, because it's going to make you faster, and it's definitely going to make the hobby more interesting, because you're going to learn, and you know, it tells you this is happening, this is why, and this is why you want to change this, and then let me know how it goes. So just all of this like constant back and forth feedback and everything, it's just amazing. And then hopefully, you know, eventually at one point you just kind of get to the point where you don't have to use it as much, because you've already built like that knowledge base up here through repeatability and everything else. So Next up, he's going to be working on the Losi NASCAR. How do we make this thing as fast as possible in a box stock class? So we'll see if Bob is up for the challenge. I know I am. We will talk to you guys later. Peace.